Okay, so far we have seen that we can use the idea of passing the buck in recursion, as long as we have a place where the buck stops. So we have to have some kind of a conditional statement and return at some point when we call. And we've seen that we can draw some interesting turtle designs this way. And also there's this aspect of kind of like winding up and then unwinding after the passing the buck call here. We can, if we put code in after that, we can kind of unwind. I want to extend that idea to programs that return values. And I think I'm going to use this environment called phony because I think it'll allow us to do some useful stepping through the code. So I'm going to define a function called add numbers. And what it's going to do is it's going to add up all the recursive version that we're going to end up with is going to add all the numbers from 1 up to n. So if n is 4, so let's explain it here. Let's see. So we're going to add numbers from 1 to n. And for example, add numbers 4 equals 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, which equals 10, right? So add numbers 4 was going to return a value of 10. Okay, so it's going to have a return statement in here. I'm going to start out doing something analogous to this, passing the buck, where we do it to a different function each time, just because I think that'll be helpful. So let's return add numbers 1, and I'm going to give it n minus 1. Okay, so I'm going to say, so basically what am I saying? Oh, I'm going to add n to all these. So basically what I'm saying is, listen, add numbers 1, you take care of all the numbers below 4. You take care of 1, 2, and 3 for me. I'm going to pass you the 3, right? And then you take care of all of these guys. And I'll add 4 to it. All right? So here's add numbers 1. And that's going to be n. And that's going to return n plus add numbers 2, n minus 1. So if we're doing add numbers 4, then this is saying, this is passing on the 3. So this n is going to be a 3, and you're telling add numbers 2, you're saying, look, you take care of adding these guys together, and I'll add 3 to that answer, and that'll be my answer. Okay, so let's take care of that. Let's say def add numbers 2 n. Okay, so we started with 4, Then we passed on, we said add numbers, you do 3 and all the numbers below it. And then we said to this guy, you do the numbers 2 and all the numbers below it. Okay, so he's going to say to the next guy, add numbers 3, you do the number 1 and all the numbers below it, and I'll add a 2 to it. And then, so this is going to be where our buck stops. Add numbers 3. We're just going to return the number. So we just have to return the 1, right? Because we've gotten all the way down to here. So now we just return this, and we're going to see how our unwinding happens. So, oops, I meant to do Control S to save. And let's call this, let's see, did I save the, I think that's what I wanted. Yeah, let's call this, I don't know, let's call this Recursion 3. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of just running it the regular way, the Stony allows me to debug. So I'm going to see if I can do this right. If I say debug, and I put my cursor here and say run to cursor, then does that work? Let's see. Maybe I need to do it. Oh no. Debug. Oh, maybe I just need to step through it. Let's try that. So I'm going to step over this piece. Oh yeah, because I have to define these guys, right? So I'm defining this guy, defining that guy, defining that guy, defining that guy. Oh, I didn't put in a call. That's the problem. So let's define, oh no, not define. Let's call add numbers on 4. So I make my call to this first guy. Oh, I think that's the deal. That's why I had trouble. So now let's try debug and run the cursor. Ah, there we go. Okay. So I'm making my call here. Let's see if I can show up the value. So at this point, the value of n is 4 because I made that call, this call here. I called add numbers 4. So now I am in this function here. So let's take the next step. What happens if I say, oh, okay, so let's resolve these. So n is a 4, and what's add numbers 1? Well, to get add numbers 1, we have to first resolve what's n minus 1, right? Because that's the input to add numbers 1. So we'll resolve that. Well, n is 4, so 1 is 1, 4 minus 1 is 3. So now we're ready to look at add numbers 1. What's happening there? Okay, well, add numbers 1, when we call add numbers 1, we called it with a 3, right? That's what we said. So we ended up calling it with a 3 because that's 4 minus 1. Now we're going to call this guy. So now what do we have to do? Well, we have to resolve n. N is a 3. And then we have to resolve the input here to add numbers 2. Boom, boom, boom. So 3 minus 1 is 2. So now we're going to call add numbers 2 with the number 2. And now our n is 2 at this point. Okay, so we called add numbers 2 with a 2. Now we're in add numbers 2. So now what do we got to do? Well, now we have to resolve this n. Right? See what we're going to return here. So n is 2, and then we're going to resolve our n minus 1. That's 2 minus 1 is 1. So now we're going to call, and then we have to call add numbers 3 to get a value here. So let's see, what's that? Well, here n has the value of 1, so we can just return it, right? So let's do that. Let's see. So notice, so this is where our buck stops, right? Because we're not calling any more functions. So we're going to call that. We resolve that. That's n is a 1. So when we continue, now we're back. We completed add numbers 3, and we got the value of 1 there. So add numbers 3 gave us a 1. We passed it a 1, and it returned us a 1 back. So now we can resolve this. Now we can resolve our 2. Remember, in add numbers, n had the value of 2, so now we can say 2 plus 1 is 3. And now we're done with add numbers 2, so we can return from there, and we get to add numbers 1. Now we can resolve this one. So add numbers 2 return to 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. Now we can return from add numbers 1, and add numbers 1 return to 6. So now 4 plus 6 is 10. Now we can return our 10. Oh, it just returned it. I should have told them to print it out, huh? So let's print it. So now let's run the whole thing. Let's just run it instead of debug and just make sure it's working the way we want it to. Yeah, print it out a 10. Okay, so that's the idea with passing the buck from one function to another. In the next video, we'll run this as a recursive function.